Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Edward B. Diethrich Vascular Society board member and president-elect of the International Society of Endovascular Specialists, Scotland's own. He's a doctor, but we call him Mr. Donald Reid.
Mr. Dick Williams set that camera girl up. Dr. Diethrich, ladies and gentlemen, I regard this as a privilege and my honor to say a few words on behalf of the international contribution that Dr. Diethrich has made over the years. In fact, his international reputation reached me in Scotland when I was aged 5. My father had visited Dr. DeBakey and Dr. Wholey in the early 1960s. And when he came home, I rushed to see him. He'd been away a long time. And he talked to me about this is a true story. He talked to me about a certain Dr. Ted Diethrich, who he regarded as the best technical surgeon in Dr. DeBakey's staff. I've had this book yet again at my bedside this week. Dr. Dietrich's international reputation began in Houston when he won the respect of Dr. DeBakey, and ran his service for many years. And he also won great respect from Dr. Wholey, who personally told me that Dr. Diethrich was the best surgeon he'd ever seen. In fact, he said to me, he thought that Dr. Diethrich should run for senator. In Houston, at the end of August 1968, Dr. Diethrich telephoned Dr. DeBakey at 11:45 p.m. and he persuaded him to do his first heart transplant. But it wasn't just a heart transplant. He persuaded him that he had 5 operating rooms fully staffed with over 70 members of staff, and they did the very first heart, lung, 2 kidneys and corneal transplants in the world. And that day, a patient who received the heart called Bill Carroll was one of the most successful heart transplants in the world at that time. He lived for years, going back to work in Phoenix. Dr. Diethrich, when he arrived in Arizona, was recognized as one of the best technical heart surgeons. And it was no surprise that when the United Nations ambassador for the United States under President Nixon had heart problems, he went to Dr. Diethrich. International famous patients followed, and some of them I was interested in because I went to Dr. Dietrich's meeting once in Monte Carlo, and we stayed at Lowe's Hotel, and he told me that he'd operated on Mr. Lowe's. And I know from Tad that later on he met Mr. Pirelli, who was also a patient. Well, you can imagine what this meant to me. This meant that Dr. Diethrich every year could visit his patients in Monte Carlo and check them out at the Grand Prix. He attracted patients, Dr. Diethrich also, I know, from Saudi Arabia. And when I was with you in 1995, I remember a prince of the royal family coming who wanted to have a renal stent. But I visited recently and spoke to Dr. David Hanania in Jordan. And he explained to me that in 1973-74, he invited you to go to the Middle East. It was not common at that time to visit the Middle East. and you opened King Hussein's Medical Centre, which I have recently visited. He wanted me to pass on his very, very best wishes to you. And he pointed out that shortly after you had been there, and because you had been there, and stayed, I believe, for the weekend with King Hussein and the royal family, he was able to go ahead and do the first heart transplant in the early 1970s in the Arab world in the Middle East. Dr. Diethrich, you're also an international surgeon. It is not an easy thing to go to the operating room in a foreign environment, foreign language, and in very different facilities, often with the worst patient they could possibly find for you. I joined you once in Modena shortly after I had left the Arrows in the Heart as a fellow. I had seen you only every single day at 4:45 a.m., working all the time, and didn't think you possibly had any life after you went home. Anyhow, I visited the lowest picture there, Modena, with Dr. Alberto Benassi, where you were putting in at that time in 1995 and 96 the Endologics device in Europe. I was very impressed that when I arrived at the hospital, the Arrows in the Heart Institute logo was inside the hospital. I was even more impressed, Dr. Diethrich, that night when I discovered that your favourite drink was Scottish whiskey. You had great international tastes. Further international contributions have got to be recognised by the International Congress. This year, it is 25 years old. I believe it works because, uniquely, it shows doctors, by live cases, how to operate better, and they take this home. You also founded in 1993, following a meeting in Jacques Bousquet's hometown of Bordeaux, France, the International Society of Endovascular Specialists. It maintains a stable physician membership of over 1,500 doctors from right across the world. And you've also founded with Dr. Fogarty and Rebecca Bowman the Journal of Endovascular Therapy, which is read by tens of thousands of doctors every year. Your research and publications and textbooks internationally have been pivotal overseas. Your early work on heart transplantation, work on the aortic arch in the early years, aneurysms, carotids, lasers, and the introduction of endovascular therapy has reached a global situation. But I would say also to you, you touched on something that I recognized very quickly. You used the word translational in building the building you sit in now. Your ability to translate research for patient benefit has been fantastic. I would like to now allow a short video from your friends and colleagues attending the International Congress to be shown.
Ted, I believe our friendship extends over some 40 years, and it's certainly one of the most valuable things in my life.
Ted, I want to thank you for what you have done, not only to me, but to all members of the Edward Diethrich Vascular Society. As the first president of that society over 10 years ago, with 100 active members in that society, you don't believe how much we appreciate what you have done to all our educations and to the vascular specialty in general.
Dr. Diethrich is a very, very unique individual. He's a true pioneer in so many aspects and so many fields. He's the creator of endovascular therapies, or non-surgical treatment of cardiovascular and vascular disease. He has so many followers, and he has established so many new techniques and technologies that is mind-boggling to most of us.
I do hear that you've done several things that really helped patients that have significant cardiovascular disease. And I've heard it so many times I've begun to believe it.
Ted, what I've always admired about you is your overwhelming perseverance. And then secondly, that coupled to your talented visionary ability just creates an impressive background. But most importantly, I think what you created for the vascular surgical societies and the fact that you basically reinvented endovascular procedures for that entire space has been just an overwhelming accomplishment.
I believe that all persons who treat patients with endovascular diseases owe you their respect and appreciation for your vision, innovation, and contributions which you have made to both the development of open and endovascular therapies, which have become standard of care for treatment of patients with vascular disease.
Through a spectacular series of international congresses in the 80s and 90s, you inspired and empowered a whole generation of vascular surgeons to take this leap into endovascular surgery.
You are an integral part of a small group of avant-garde thinkers whose contributions to the development of endovascular treatment for vascular disease has actually saved the field of vascular surgery from obsolescence and irrelevance.
When I went to my old country, Jordan, and I read in the news that the late King Hussein awarded Dr. Diethrich the highest honor and the highest medal given by that country to any medical doctor worldwide for his achievement and his contribution to the care of cardiovascular surgery at King Hussein Medical Center.
You invite me to visit you in Phoenix, to your institute, and you gave me this appointment at 4 o'clock. I arrived in the afternoon to be in time. In fact, it was in the morning. And that particular morning, you did 15 cases endovascular in a row. So immediately, I learned a lot from you.
It's interesting that guys like you, who are pioneers and innovators, are often not appreciated while they're doing their main work, because in some ways it threatens the rank and file with having to change, having to introduce new techniques. It makes them uncomfortable, and accordingly they don't appreciate you as much as they should. And it's nice to see now that you're being appreciated for the really great guy that you've been. You've certainly been an inspiration to me in many ways and led me into the endovascular era. So thanks for everything, and I hope our careers continue together.
Hi, Ted. Honored to be here to say congratulations on not only what's been a great career, but what we see now as just a future step to more time to do what you want to do.
I would tell you one thing based on my experience. I have changed locations by someone else's request no fewer than 3 different times, and the requests were made by 3 different deans of the School of Medicine at Stanford. Each time I moved on, I had more fun, did better, and was able to really benefit humankind in the environment that I created for myself. You will do the same, and we look forward to a long relationship with you based on the benefit we can give to patients. Have a good time.
Ted, on behalf of all the Australian vascular surgeons that you have helped over the last 25 years, our heartfelt thanks.
You were a pioneer. It was a discovery for us. You teach us a lot, and we are proud to be your colleague and so happy to be your friend.
Your legacy in teaching, training, and development's going to go on. I have a picture Wayne's going to show you here of you in one of your portable offices. This is how we all remember you and look in the future, with you in the hottest spot on earth with a pile of paperwork, and the color and the reflection of the heat, I think, tells everybody what we expect. Obviously, we're just looking forward to further collaboration. We all love you, Ted. Thanks.
Dr. Diethrich is not retiring. He's not giving up on his love and passion for treatment of patients with vascular and cardiovascular disease. He's just starting, believe me. I know him very well because he's a very personal friend of mine, and I know his desires and his passion. So, Dr. Diethrich, Ted, stay thirsty, my friend, for good things to come.